Good morning to you. I'm Jeff Slakey. Happy to have in studio this morning Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury. Good morning to you.
Morning.
How are you?
Good.
Had a big weekend yesterday, the memorial of 9/11, 15 years. Where were you 15 years ago?
I was working for Thurston County, and I was on my way to an 8-hour training at the firing range that day. And when I pulled in, the other folks had not, they were already there. A number of them were there and hadn't heard. I was telling them what was going on, and we gathered around a patrol car in the middle of basically a gravel pit and sat and listened to that. We're trying to get information back, and we didn't know what was happening and where we were going to be assigned. And so there was a lot of things happening that morning of not knowing what was going on. I remember it well.
Yeah, wow, my goodness. Do you have any updates for us on Thurston County Sheriff John Snaza?
The most recent information I had is that John is progressing. He's still stable, but critical, and that they were contemplating moving him to somewhere to some hospital in Seattle and getting him closer to home. And I don't know if that's occurred this week or not. I have a big card that's been signed by a number of people of our community, and had called and said I was intending on driving over to see him, and they said, well, they're trying to make decisions on if they're going to move him or not. So I should find out soon. I was waiting for a call today from the undersheriff. So.
Okay. I was doing my weather forecast just before you came in here. It's 39 right now. It's going to be 80 today still. We got that. But cold this morning, and maybe some people waking up to this, and the trend returns here as winter comes up. You head out to your car, you turn your car on to warm it up, then you go back inside because, hey, we live in a nice community, get some coffee, and then the next thing you know, your car's gone.
Exactly. Interesting you bring that up. I know of two vehicle thefts recently in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if that was the case or not because it wasn't that cold yet, but you're right, we're getting in that time of year, and I hear so many times from people that they leave their keys in their car because we're just a little community, we shouldn't have to worry about that, or I was just leaving it there for a few minutes unattended, and as you start in that fall time and those vehicles become available. And so, yeah, be mindful of that. Big weather change. It's going to warm up this afternoon. But, I'm sure there's people out there warming up their cars this morning.
Yeah, for sure. What else are you looking at from the north end and around the county? You hearing any new news?
Gosh, I'll tell you what's interesting to me, and I don't know. I better be careful on this. I don't know if there's an end to it in sight. I was up there last week a number of times through the north end. I'm still just amazed by the amount of traffic traveling through there, and that road construction project. It's just like, it's almost I can't even remember when it started and if it'll ever be over with it. And just asking people to be mindful as you drive through there, because the traffic flows, literally thousands and thousands of cars a day leave Mason County and then return at night.
Yeah.
But when I was up there last week, they were just making a road alteration out of cones just to move traffic over for another part of the project. And, you know, it looked like cars are coming in your lane. They actually were, and you're moved over to the side of the road. And just be mindful, because there are a lot of people that walk along the edge of the roadway there because the school's in session and buses and cars going in and out of schools. It's a really busy area. I hope that one day we see that settle down, but it's a very dangerous area in there. Everybody stops very quickly all at once, and road construction, big piece of equipment moves out in front, is carrying something. So I would say be mindful of that, driving to the north end of our community. I guess the good side of that, I got a chance to meet a guy that's bringing a new business into the north end, and he was telling me that traffic flow is great because they're right there. He says they're all for the taking. So, and I guess looking at it from his perspective, and he said that when he talked about putting in his new business, they looked all different places around this area, and they found that because of that flow of traffic through that Belfair area, they wanted high traffic flow, and some of the businesses are looking for that. A lot of people moving back and forth, and they're hoping to capture some of that audience. So I guess from that perspective, it's a very good thing.
Yeah, I guess. Well, for everybody, there's a silver lining, even if it's not for somebody else. So school in session. Quickly, what is the fines? And there's no tolerance, right, for speeding during schools, in school zones and things like that. You guys don't give warnings. You give tickets.
No, that's a really serious offense in there, and there's just it's a real precious thing you're talking about when you have especially little children, and you go into the school zones in the elementary schools, and I know that there's some of our schools are located on main roads, and some of them that aren't. The parking is right there, and all of a sudden a little one pops out between a car or something. It's got to be a place you really, I mean, sometimes 20 is way too fast. You've really got to slow down there in those peak times especially, but be mindful of somebody coming out between a parked car or something, and there's not a whole lot of variation to allow room for error in that. And we try to be out in those zones as much as we can, especially at the start of the year. But just be mindful, no matter where you're at around those school zones, and be cautious.
I know the city of Shelton is here around the schools, but for North Mason and other schools that are not part of an incorporated city, is it the sheriffs or is it the state patrol that share those duties?
If the school's on a state highway, perhaps like Highway 3, when you're moving through Belfair there, you've got a school right there in town or right on the edge of the road, that's state patrol. But we still try to stop in those areas and cover those, and we try to move in and out of those zones. But we've got schools as far out as Merriam Light, and you've got schools that are not right on a main road necessarily. If you go up to Grapeview, you turn off the main road, go up to Grapeview and around the school, but there's still a lot of little people moving around in those areas. And so we try to move in and out of those zones as much as we can in between our other calls.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury on the air this morning. We'll check back with you next week and hopefully have an update on Snaza, Sheriff Snaza, and more.
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you, sir.